Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Get ready for truth bombs, belly laughs, and the kind of accent that turns car into a two-syllable adventure. Here's your host, Sean.
Ladies and gentlemen. Oh, wait a minute. Weird echoes somewhere. Anyone else hearing that? I can't even tell you where that's coming from. Oh, that was really funny. That fixed it. Welcome to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Are you off to a bad start? Somehow on my phone, because I have SHR Media liked, subscribed to because of the other boys, it started automatically. So I was getting feedback in the studio on a half-second delay, and I could not figure out what the hell was going on. And now I know. Welcome to the Edge of Liberty. Thank you. It is what? The 19th of November. Holy God. Last part of this year is flying by. The first part of the year didn't go fast, honestly. But this last 2-3 months have been going on like crazy. I apologize for missing Monday night. And I know I was already harassed by Canada Heavy Hall saying I better have a good show set up because I dared be sick. I was sick. You can still hear it in my voice. I feel fine now. I just dealing with the congestion. So if you get a weird mute, if I have to mute you out for a second or maybe change the screen, it's because I don't feel good. I'm just trying to, get some stuff fixed. Yeah, I was hearing voices. Jersey Joe in the chat, Canada Heavy Hall in the chat, Biff's in the chat, BZ, Mike Pasco's in the chat. I think I saw the Cosmic Bod. Yes. The voices are in your head, but they speak with a Southern accent, I get. You're actually wrong, and I'll explain that to you off the air. Why my inner monologue certainly does not have a Southern accent. Got a lot to talk about tonight. I'm going to get to the Epstein files. Trump signed it into law. We'll talk about that in a second, but I have to address these assholes first.
Slotkin.
Senator Mark Kelly.
Representative Chris DeLuzio.
Congresswoman Maggie Goodlander.
Representative Chrissy Houlihan.
Congressman Jason Crow. I was a captain in the United States Navy.
Former CIA officer.
Former Navy.
Former paratrooper and Army Ranger.
Former intelligence officer.
Former Air Force.
We want to speak directly to members of the military
and the intelligence community
who take risks each day to keep Americans safe.
Now stop. They're addressing the military members and the intelligence community. They already gave you their resume. This is their way of saying, I was one of you. I understand what it's like to be in your position. I know what you must be going through because it's difficult.
We know you are under enormous stress and pressure right now.
There you go.
Americans trust their military.
Yes,
but that trust is at risk.
This administration is pitting our uniformed military
and intelligence community professionals
against American citizens.
Where? Could somebody explain to me where that is, where we're pitting the military versus the citizenry? If they're talking about using the National Guard at protest and to support ICE, well, the people ICE is arresting aren't American citizens, so let's stop there. If you show up and attempt to intervene with an arrest on ICE or attack a federal building, you are the one pitting yourself against those who are either A, enforcing the law, B, supporting those who are enforcing the law, or C, all of the above. So nobody's pitting the American military against anybody. These people who are trying to interrupt ICE arrests and who are trying to attack federal buildings are the ones who are pitting themselves against the people whose job it is to defend it.
Like us, you all swore an oath
to protect and defend this Constitution.
Right
None
now,
of them are living up
the
to
threats
it.
to our
None
Constitution
of them.
aren't just coming from abroad.
but from right here at home. Our laws are clear. You can refuse illegal orders.
You can refuse illegal orders.
You must refuse illegal orders.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law.
Or our Constitution.
We know this is hard and that it's a difficult time to be a public servant.
You know what? They're entirely right. They don't have to carry out an illegal order. It's in the UCMJ. Every person who goes through boot camp is taught that, especially these days. But what's missing in this whole insurrectionist speech is a lot of winks and nudges, because they're not saying an actual illegal order. They're not talking about opening fire on an armed group of people, either at home or abroad. They're not talking about taking over a city in violation of posse comitatus, or enforcing the law in violation of posse comitatus. They're not talking about the Insurrection Act. No. They're talking about supporting and being a support element for ICE, who, by the way, ICE, who's up, their attacks are up like 900%. We'll get to that later on. Bill Maloogian put out some great numbers over at Fox News that I want to talk about later. But ICE is, once again, carrying out enforcement on laws that were signed by Congress, or voted on by Congress and signed by a president. They are the law of the land. Show me any one of these assholes who's put forth an actual bill that would have changed that and made this conversation entirely different. The answer is none, first of all. Second of all, because, you know, they can't help themselves to just be complete douche nozzles. They're preying on these younger, emotional people. They know that age group's emotional, right? You saw what happened with military videos when they're ordered to cut their hair and cut their nails and actually have some sort of like military protocol and structure to their appearance. There was a lot of military members who were upset at that, and they got in trouble because they went to social media to complain in uniform. They're going after that group of people. And what they're trying to say is, hey, if you feel like this is illegal, you should stand up against it. You should stand up against it and not follow through with that order. Doesn't matter if it is illegal. By the way, under the rule UCMJ, if you stand up for an order you thought was illegal and it's later found out to be illegal, guess what? You're in trouble, right? These are not illegal orders. But guess who will be out in front of the military base that the trial's held at, or in front of Leavenworth Prison if somebody ends up there because of this? These guys. They'll be holding their press conference talking about how Trump did them dirty, and how dare he, Pete Hegseth did them dirty, and how dare he, and then say, will you do me a favor and donate money to my election so this doesn't happen again? That's all this is. This is Orange Man bad equals fundraising. Pardon me. And they're going after members of the military. They're trying to incite, as somebody said, an insurrection or a coup within the military. They're trying to divide the military. Guess what? Being told and activated as a Guard member to go support law enforcement has happened numerous times. I did an article on SHR Media. I think I talked about it on the air when they were down in LA. It happened under Bush. It's happened numerous times. It happened under Obama, for fuck's sake, in Baltimore with the Freddie Gray riots. But now they're trying to say, you have the right to refuse. You don't have the right to refuse a legal order. And the court has upheld several times in supporting law enforcement enforcing federal law, or enforcing or helping civilian law, is not illegal. But they want to get these kids fucking jammed up and ruin their military career, by the way. Because guess what's going to happen? You're going to end up out of the military after you do your time in Leavenworth or wherever they send you. I have never seen, it makes sense that there are two CIA operatives in there because this is a psyop. This is entirely a fucking psyop. This is the same as encouraging protests and riots that we saw the Democrats do since Trump ended up back in office. This is the same shit. This is the same as encouraging the violence that's been happening against ICE agents this entire fucking time. And it's the left doing it. And I know they're going to say, and all their defenders came out and said, they're just reminding them, look, the people in the military aren't as stupid as you think. They don't need a reminder, but they can be emotional because they're human. And that's what this is going after. So when they tell you they stand for the military, oh, I was a veteran. Mark Kelly said that he was shot at when he was in his F-14, where there's apparently no record of that ever happening. When they're sitting here telling you, yeah, and you're going to get a dishonorable discharge. And by the way, if you get a dishonorable discharge, guess what? You're going to have a hard time finding a decent job after that. It's not going to be impossible, but it ain't going to be easy. But they're all fucking liars. And they're all cheats. And this shows you what's more important to them. Not the well-being of the military members. No. This is about them. They want a campaign. They want a member of the military to get court-martialed for this so they can go and give a fucking press conference. That's all it is. It is. I've seen a lot of shitty things in my life. Working in law enforcement, just absorbing the news as it is, seeing some of the worst in mankind. And this is up there. And it's not using a weapon, or it's not neglecting a human being, or it's not leaving somebody to die in a ditch, or some other horrible tragedy. No. This is playing on their emotions to get the outcome that they want for political gain going into the midterms. And I want you to remember that. I want you to remember all of them. And if you go to SHRmedia.com, Jersey Joe wrote a great article on this, and it has all of the politicians in there, who gave this unbelievably horrible video, I guess a good way of putting it, presentation, whatever you want to call it. But it's gross. It's disgusting. They should all be ashamed of themselves. Look, I've said a lot of different times that just because I disagree with somebody, I don't think they should resign. All of them should resign for that video, because that was a psyop. That was mental manipulation against our military members and trying to coerce them into committing a crime. And it's unfucking believable. Earlier tonight, I think it was 5:19 Pacific time, 8:19 on the East Coast, President Trump signed the Senate bill into law that came out of the House first, obviously, that will now release the Epstein files. And of course, this is once again become the biggest political football that we will see today. It's amazing to me how neither side wanted to do it, but both sides wanted to do it. But this side did want to do it, and only some of these people want to do it, yada, yada, yada. He signed it into law. He tore into Democrats on Truth Social. I have it here somewhere. And he essentially said, all right, fine. Like, if this is what you want, this is what you got. And I will read from his Truth Social. Oh, I'm going to try to read. There we go. Jeffrey Epstein, who was charged by the Trump Justice Department in 2019, not the Democrats, was a lifelong Democrat, donated thousands of dollars to Democratic politicians who was deeply associated with well-known Democrat figures like Bill Clinton, who traveled on his plane 26 times, Larry Summers, who just resigned from many boards, including Harvard, sleazebag politician activist Reid Hoffman, minority leader Hakeem Jeffries, who asked Epstein to donate to his campaign after he was charged, Democrat Congresswoman Stacey Plaskett, I have more on that later, and many more. Perhaps the truth about these Democrats and their associations with Jeffrey Epstein will soon be revealed, because I've just signed the bill to release the Epstein files. As everybody knows, I asked the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, to pass the bill in the House and Senate respectively. Because of this request, the votes were almost unanimous in favor of the passage. At my direction, the Justice Department has already begun turning over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. Do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever speak about him. Democrats have used the Epstein issue, which affects them far more than the Republican Party, doesn't say completely, but far more than the Republican Party, in order to try to distract from our amazing victories, including the great, big, beautiful tax cut bill, strong borders, no men and women's sports or transgender for everyone, ending DEI, stopping Biden's setting inflation, lowering prices, biggest tax and regulation cuts in history, ending 8 wars, building our military, knocking out Iran's nuclear capability, getting trillions of dollars invested into the USA, creating the hottest country anywhere in the world, and even delivering a huge defeat to the Democrats in our recent shutdown disaster. For years, our great nation had to endure Russia, Ukraine, impeachment hoax 1, impeachment hoax 2, and many other Democrat-related witch hunt and scams, all of which have been so terrible and divisive for our country, and have been done to confuse, deflect, and distract from the great job that Republicans and the Trump administration are doing. This latest hoax will backfire on the Democrats, just as all of the rest have. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. I do. Absolutely. You just gotta love how when he's pissed, you can tell it reads through. It absolutely reads through. So what are we going to get out of this? Well, a lot is yet to be seen. And what I believe, not everything, we'll get some bits and pieces out of this that will probably upset some people's apple carts, and rightfully so. Look, I have no problem. I've said this before, I'll say it again. Whoever's on the list that can be proven and prosecuted should go to jail. They should be exposed. Even if they can't be proven and prosecuted, at least being exposed, right? Let's get it all out and let the people make their decisions. However, you need to remember that there are still 4, I'll tell you right now, cases going on or have been closed even federally, in which documents pertaining to the Epstein files, because the cases were Epstein, were still sealed. And now you can't force the judge. You can appeal, you can ask, you can do, there's legal proceedings, but you can't force them to unseal it. The 4 cases are, hold on a second. There's one, the federal judge in New York. That's one of them. Hold on. I got more. Here we go. U.S. Judge Berman of the Southern District, New York, has a lot sealed. I believe that has grand jury information, that has transcripts and exhibits from the Epstein criminal case, the one that he was actually convicted of. And he has those are in place. Judge Engelmeyer denied a request already to unseal grand jury materials in the Ghislaine Maxwell case. U.S. Judge Robin Roseberg in the Southern District of Florida denied a similar request involving grand jury materials linked to the federal investigation of Epstein in Florida in 2005 and 2007. And those are the 3. I thought there was a 4th one out there, but I could be wrong. But I have a feeling that what people want, what people are looking for out of the Epstein files, a majority of them are going to end up sealed and we're not going to see. And that's going to piss a lot of people off. Now, allegedly, Cernovich did a story, I think it was back in 19, could have been after that, where he said the NSA or one of the intel, or maybe the CIA, maybe it was the FBI, DOJ, has a bunch of the files and they've already scrubbed them and they've already moved them and moved names around and yada, yada, yada. And that could be very well true. I don't know. We don't know. We can speculate. We can hypothesize, but we don't know. What we do know is what we will get. And what we do know is that no matter what comes out of this, if let's just say, and I think the Justice Department has 15 days to turn it all loose, completely loose. If everything just comes out, if all three judges unseal everything, we get the entire Epstein case minus the photos of children, because nobody fucking needs to see that. No matter what's in there, it's not going to be enough. One side's going to say this, the other side's going to say that. This story has become so fucking muddled that there's a legitimate chance that we will never know the actual truth. We will never have enough documentation to convince people of the actual truth. And that's what happens when you make something a political football. That's what happens when things happen on a high level. There's speculation that he worked for Mossad. Okay, that's speculation. Anything's possible. I mean, you look at how many Americans in high-level places, government officials, have been found to be spies for other countries. There's speculation that, the name's going to be, everything's going to be redacted. Well, the victim's information will probably be redacted. We have all of that stuff. Yeah, and they're already saying that they've wiped the files and yada, yada, yada. The simple fact of the matter is, again, Democrats, you know this, he's not a king. He's not a king. He can sign this into effect, but there are other laws that will come into play that even Trump can't change. And nobody can change except maybe Congress. Any materials that are protected under Rule 6AE, done. You're not going to see it unless a judge changes their mind. Obviously, like I said, anything where minors are exposed. All the sealed grand jury materials, you're not going to get. And yeah, now the fallout, and people in the chat room are talking about this. If you want to go to the chat, shrmedia.com, SHR Media on YouTube, click live chat and get into the chat. A lot of people are saying that there's going to be a lot of lawsuits that are going to start flying around now because of slander and libelous and all of that stuff. And yeah, everybody is going to be wetting their pants. Some on both sides of the aisle. Look, said this before. I think that there are probably going to be Republicans on the list? Sure. I have a feeling a lot of people had their hands in Epstein's pockets, and there was probably a hole cut out in the bottom, and they didn't care. But a lot of those Republicans are probably going to be the old uniparty Republicans, the ones who were Democrats, but they were Republicans, but they were really Democrats, but they ran as a Republican because they could win in their district. I don't think you're going to see any hard right Democrats. But I think you're going to see a bunch of moderates. This is all speculation. I don't know. But those moderates, those ones that are a little bit bipolitical that can go to either side of the aisle, depending on who they're talking to at that time, probably going to be in trouble. So we'll wait and see. Like I said, I think it's 15 days to 30 days. I wrote it in an article. You think I'd remember, but 15 days to produce everything. So you got to wait 15 days. I don't know. I part of me is like glad, but part of me also, the realist in me knows this ain't fucking over. Because like I said, no matter what comes out, it's not going to be enough. Unless there is, for the Democrats side, unless there's video of Trump that is clearly Trump and not manipulated, that's what they want. That's because That's what the Democrats have been telling everybody is going to be in there. Not that specifically, but they've pointed to Trump so many times, even though Trump's the one that kicked him out of Mar-a-Lago. Trump coordinated with law enforcement. Trump did a whole bunch of stuff because he knew Epstein was a piece of shit. Once he realized Epstein was a piece of shit, now, when you have limited engagement with somebody, I mean, look at priests, right? When it comes out that a priest did something inappropriate, you have all these people that spend all this time. They're like, I had no idea. And unfortunately, that can happen sometimes. And I'm not saying that that's exactly what happened here, but it sounds like that's exactly what happened here. When rumor got out what Epstein was about, it sounded like Trump. Look, you look at it from protecting his business, even if it's something like not his morals, but I think it was his morals personally. But let's say it wasn't his morals. Let's say it's just to protect his business. You guys talk about how he does nothing but enrich himself. So why wouldn't he protect himself when he knew what was coming? I'll tell you what, people could say a lot of things about Trump. He's not stupid, and he hasn't ever been stupid. And outside of some bad, maybe wife choices and girlfriend choices or whatever, I don't think, I mean, this is a guy who doesn't smoke. He's never drank. He does all that stuff. Like everything is business to him and everything is his brand to him. And yeah, he's a little bit of a narcissist, but so aren't I. We're all narcissists in our own little ways. But if that's his driving force, like you allege, and he's just nothing about enriching himself and narcissism, blah, blah, he's not going to put himself in a position to be set up. I'm looking in the chat room now. Larry Summers is going to leave Harvard University. Yeah, you know. Thank you, Jersey Joe. Mike Pasco asked, what if one of the big damn names in the donor list? Oh, yeah. I mean, the donor list at all. And Mike, that's a good point, but we already know some of the donors list. Like he threw money at Bill like crazy, he threw money at Hillary like crazy. Like we know a lot of where his money went. It was all Democrats. But, that's not common for somebody to cross that bridge as to who they're giving money to either. But I think Democrats are going to take the biggest beating in this. Cosmic Bard said, speaking of Sean, thanks, it's my show. I have to head to Boston tomorrow. Wish me luck. Oh, where you going? What time of the day you going? Good luck. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. What do I got? 3 minutes left. I know I have a couple quick stories here. Let's see. Nah. My thing's out of order. This is what happens when you take a night off, I'll start this. I'll take the break at the bottom of the half, but I want to talk about ICE. Bill Malushin put out, and I did an article on SHR Media, and a lot of people have been keeping track of this, and it's come up more and more, is the amount of assaults that have taken place on ICE agents who have been enforcing the law. We talked about this earlier in the night. We talked about this 100 times. But this is what's been verified by the Department of Homeland Security since January 20th. So you're talking just under 11 months to the day. 99 vehicle attacks on federal agents. 99 vehicle attacks. That means 99 times somebody felt emboldened enough to use their vehicle as a weapon to try to either assault federal agents or stop them from carrying out their duties. The same period in 24 was 47 attacks the year prior. 47. 71 attacks from Border Patrol, up from 45. That's 58% increase. 28 of these attacks are on ICE. That's a 1,300% increase. Well, to be fair, when the Biden administration pretty much ordered them to be babysitters and paper pushers, they probably weren't getting too many people driving at them. I would like to see the numbers before the Biden administration, which I honestly do not have, and I could not find in time for this show. Yeah. Oh, no. Hold on. I'm reading chat, and yeah, no, I agree. There's a couple people saying there's going to be judges. Yes. Hollywood entirely. Probably some international. We're talking about the Epstein list, so I guess we'll finish that out. and I'll get back to this, probably some international politicians as well. Probably some people whose name you probably didn't know, and then when they'll tell you who they are, you'll be like, oh, that guy. Jasmine Crockett, anything she says is stupid. So Jersey Joe in the chat room. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of that. I think that once these start coming out and there's enough to put together, and look, we saw what happens during the last release, right? The Democrats threw it in everyone's face like, oh, this is finally what's going to be wrecking Trump. And I can't believe they still have that approach, right? Because it's become very transparent. Everybody's known why Biden did nothing for 4 years on the Epstein list. Nothing whatsoever. Everyone knows. The fact that Democrats are now, and I guarantee you right now, they're in spin mode to try to figure out how they're going to spin some of these names that are on the list. It's going to be absolutely fucking mind-blowing. I'll be back after this.
Ever dream of escaping the daily grind? At Escapist Travel and Tours, we make those dreams your reality. From breathtaking adventures to cultural immersions, we offer escapes tailored just for you. Let us take you to places where every moment feels like a new chapter in your life's adventure. Visit www.escapist.travel or call us today at 1-855-885-81776. Your escape awaits.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRN Radio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRN Radio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SA.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Edge of Liberty right here on the SHR Media Network. Good update some commercials. How you do that? That's really Future Sean's problem. Speaking of Future Sean, before I forget, next week, the week of Thanksgiving, I will not be in the seat whatsoever. I'm taking a trip. I, too, am going back to Boston. My mother had surgery. Just simple one, nothing too crazy. She's doing well, but I told her I'd come back and visit during Thanksgiving. So I will return actually that Monday afternoon. So I don't know if that following Monday, what's that, the 8th, the 7th, something like that. I don't know if I'll be back in time for that. I'm going to try. But, you know, you're going to go see the mother before she yells at you. She does. Speaking of yelling at you, I just want to mention the Cosmic Bard. He's on our YouTube every Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific, on the SHR Media YouTube, because we love him. We adore him. He's such a good guy. He's so great for us. And I want to make sure I take time to mention him so he can play this back later to somebody else. But yeah, going into the break, we're talking about Epstein. I started to talk about the ICE thing, but the chat room was still going on about Epstein. And I if nothing else, I love my chat room. So sports celebrities, other figures that'll come up, actors, actresses, Or maybe not actresses. Maybe there might be some actresses. You got to think of maybe like politicians who suddenly fell off the face of the planet. That's always my for anyone who's, what's his name there? Everyone's mentioned Kevin Spacey, and again, I don't know. I do not know any of these people, but there's no doubt that Jeffrey Epstein, either by happenstance or intentionally, worked himself into all of those circles. Look, you got to think that there was a connection to Harvey Weinstein and all the things that Harvey Weinstein did that was horrible. So there's going to be so much, and we just don't know anything. And look, I could be wrong. There's a chance none of these people are on it. I mean, I'm still leaning towards that we're not going to get the answers that everybody's hoping for. We're not going to get that gristle and that meat that people want to dive into, because simple fact of the matter is I think the stuff that will matter is still under lock and key in the federal seal, because that's what he was indicted on. Now, granted, his indictment was very light, and they could have gotten him for a lot more heavy things. And the administration, what was it? Comey's daughter really went kind of easy on the prosecution. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. BZ talking about it's the Adam Schiff strategy. I have all the evidence, all of it, because I say I have all the evidence. Yeah. Adam Schiff, who, God, he's another piece of shit, went on national television and told everybody he had video coming from Russia in which President Trump was getting urinated on by a Russian prostitute. He had the smoking gun. Remember that? And the fucking morons in the state still elected him. Oh, look, Cosmic Bards in the chat said, I love how this promo doesn't mention any of my show. Rick hates me. That's weird. That's weird. I didn't know he said that in the chat room. Well, Cosmic Bard, I gave you love anyhow. Because I have to. Almost every Sunday when you ain't sick. Yeah, I know. It's funny because I feel fine. This is that junk that's been going around where 48 hours you just feel, like a cold, like a flu. You're just tired. Everything's achy. But this congestion is just brutal. I don't know. I know you guys didn't see it. When we went to break, I went to cough, and I coughed so hard I actually fired my cough drop between the two computer monitors sitting in front of me, and I got to go onto the desk afterwards and get that back out. So, yep, I'm just going to keep hitting the mute button and hoping. Yeah. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, Cosmic Bard. Cosmic Bard's talking about the age of consent. I think a lot of them, I know where you're going with this, is how young were the victims. And I would have to say very, very young. That's why they had to travel into a place where they wouldn't be prosecuted locally. Yeah. And BZ, you're right. We'll never know all the information. Mission Ready Men said he got pranked by the DJs on that one. That was Adam Schiff. That was, dude, I wish I could absolutely, yeah. Talk about Russia. There you go, right? There's the interference. I wish I could get those Russian DJs on the air, because that would be the funniest thing in the world. It would be hysterical, because they set them up. The cough drop is now glued firmly to the wall. No, it actually bounced and hit. It's on the metal on the legs of my desk, BZ. It's actually not on the wall. So that's good. I do, like I said, I get a couple more stories I want to get to. I don't want to say the whole night on Epstein, because we don't have any more than what we have right now. So I went through the verified numbers of the attacks. Up 99 vehicles attacks in this year, below the same period as 47 the year prior. A lot of it, some of it is coming from the fact that the enforcement has been strict. 100%. It is harder now than it was under all 4 years under the Biden administration, which is why we have to do what we're doing now. And also the years of political hostility against the ICE and Border Patrol. Look, you remember the whipping allegations, right? Where they all shit all over Border Patrol for the whipping with the horses. Oh, they're whipping migrants. And then you found out that it's actually how they encourage their horses to move, yada, yada, yada. It's been practiced for years. They weren't whipping anybody, and there was no apologies for it. And then once ICE, I've played how many times on here and in articles and shared on social media, how many times we've seen politicians berate, belittle ICE. You have California ones trying to pass laws to keep them from covering their faces. That you have certain city council members and state representatives, and I think there was a couple federals who were talking about, put it out on social media if ICE is operating in a neighborhood, and share the information. There's ICE apps to know where ICE is. You have people, the school board member, or what was it, a principal or something I played a couple months ago in LA, who's talking about how you're allowed to carry a gun and use it if you need to. How, what was the other one? I know Big E played it, and I might have played on this too. It had something to do with if they don't have a warrant in hand, you can fight them and yada, 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 which is not how it works. But they've all encouraged this attack on ICE. And they want to say, oh, it's because, ICE is attacking people. No, they're not. They're going out and they're getting bad guys. I saw a video today where ICE was attempting to stop a vehicle where they believed illegal was inside. You had all these people screaming at them. The vehicle was driving through recklessly traffic and up over curbs and stuff like that to get away. And they always try to say, oh, he was just a florist, or, oh, he was just, a Baltimore dad, and blah, 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 blah. And then the mask slips. And we find out that, oddly enough, if you're running from ICE agents, it's because you're illegal and probably have a criminal record, and that's why they're looking for you. We talk about all the special interest aliens that crossed under the Biden administration. We talked about all the terrorists. Look, there was an article released on SHR Media a couple days ago about the Uzbek truck driver who had terror-related charges in Uzbekistan and actively worked with terrorist organizations for jihad. It's the same thing that we're seeing when you see conservatives go to speak at college campus. It's that same get in their face. I forget which politician said that. When you see them going out to eat dinner and da-da. It is absolutely encouragement from these leftist assholes that is causing all of this. And they've been fortunate. ICE and DHS has been fortunate that they haven't lost an officer in any of these operations. But it does scare me because I think that's the potential for that is through the roof right now. And it's something you've never seen in this country. They talk about on one hand how, they love to bring up January 6th, the Democrats do, and they talk about the law enforcement that was there on January 6th. And as soon as you mentioned January 6th, you'd be like, well, they attacked cops. I thought you were thin blue line, blah, 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 this, that, and the other thing. And then you get to, yes, it was Maxine Waters who screamed, get in their face. Thank you, Big E and Mission Ready Men. Couldn't remember. But then you get to ICE agents and DHS agents who both do, and Border Patrol, who do just more than just stop illegals. They stop drugs. They stop explosives. They stop a lot of stuff that's coming into this country. They get rid of a lot of bad people in this country. And a lot of times their investigations lead to other charges too in crimes in this country. And people don't talk about this, the amount of undocumented children without parents. You remember when the last administration lost, what was it, 200,000, 230,000 or something like that? They're starting to find those kids too. And I don't know what kind of monster would want those kids living in scary situations without their parents in a country that they've never been to, with being taken care of, i.e. put into slavery and jobs, as we saw in the California weed farm. Wasn't that the one where they had like a couple 14-year-old kids in there that had no documented parents here? They weren't documented, yada, yada, yada. They were illegals. Their parents sent them over the border and they're slave labor. And I think that was the one where Gavin Newsom's friend, Donor, owned it. That's who you're dealing with these Democrats. They like the cops that they can use, just like the military members. See how that worked? You see how they have this repeated ability to emotionally try to hijack people away from the literal conversation and into the emotional conversation? That's where our country's been for years. I was just having a conversation the other day about this, is all these kids who've been raised to act out on your emotions. Your emotions are okay. You can act, let it all out. Be crazy. Everybody gets a trophy. Timeout chairs, yada, yada, yada. They're the kids who are now causing all of these problems. They're the ones who are 20 to 32, 33 years old. They're the ones who don't believe in laws because they weren't told to believe in laws. They were raised, they were duped. Their perspective of the world is a lie, unfortunately. But that's what the Democrats do all the time. I've given you 2 examples tonight with the military and how they're trying to emotionally corrupt people there. Against ICE, how they try to emotionally corrupt people there. We saw it against conservatives, how they try to emotionally corrupt people there. They don't have the ability to have a literal argument. They don't have logic to stand on in their wants and wishes because their logic is not logic. And they know that. Mondami's support was the biggest slip of the mask since Bernie. And I know I said last week that Bernie's trying to destroy the party, and I still wholeheartedly believe that. But the amount of people that came out and supported Mondami, even though he was a socialist Democrat, which is just communist, you're going to hear more of it, and it's going to become more popular because Mondami won and they think it's okay to talk about it. But for years, they didn't want to tell you that that was the goal for many in the left. But it is. And they use emotions to get there because the logic won't get them there. Because you can't prove that socialism works because it never has. Don't talk about what's in Norway. That's the one everyone always points to. Go look at the tax rate there. Go look at how much you have to make to be successful. Don't talk about, give me the whole fucking nationalized healthcare, because we've talked a bunch of times on the show how that's a fucking lie and how it's bullshit. Look at Obamacare. Obamacare is become essentially socialized healthcare, as we predicted it would be. And it can't sustain itself. And that wasn't entirely socialized healthcare. That was just like 70, 80% of the way there. The end goal was a single payer system, as I've talked about. Right? That's the goal. But they couldn't tell people that, because if they were teaching that in schools 15 years ago when these kids were young, the parents back then would have freaked out. Because we remember communism. We understand what communism is. So they had to wait a generation. They just raised them to be programmable to emotions. And that's who you see today attacking ICE, going to these protests. They're the Black Lives Matter kids. Same thing. That was the first generation where they really saw that it worked, and that's why they keep doubling down on this. Let's go to the chat. Helicopter mommies and daddies raised on sippy cups and T-ball. Yep. I know you have sippy cups. Help me with my drinking problem. Yeah, Cosmic Bard, little hint. If you put a hole in the other side of it, it doesn't do the bubbling effect, and it just all comes out at once, just the way it should. I'm not sure. 100% into Sanders, 100% of the demo. Who's pleased? Oh, no, I think he wants to destroy the party. I do. I am 100% convinced. I think, and I'll tell you what, BZ, I think if anyone, you can understand this, some of it comes to age. I think that he is to the point where he knows he doesn't have much time left, and he doesn't give a fuck what happens to the Democratic Party, because he's going to be in the ground at some point. He's what, 80-something years old? He's no spring chicken. He knows that. He's not going to be around to see socialism take over America, even if it was actually possible, which I don't think it is right now. I think there's still enough sane people in this country to keep it from happening, and I think New York's going to make more sane people, believe it or not, a couple of years. Bernie knows he's not going to be here, so he is lighting the fires everywhere he can, because he's a vindictive prick. We know that. We've seen that in him. He says a lot of nice things, right? Oh, you see him on the different committees, and even though I disagree vehemently with my opponent across the aisle, I still think he's a wonderful person. He says shit like that all the time. He doesn't mean it. I don't think Bernie means any of it. You gotta remember, the man honeymooned in communist Russia. That's where he and his bride chose to go. He's never had a real job in his life. He's always been a government stooge. And he thinks that the government provides all and should provide all. He's the same guy who says he hates rich people, but he has 3 houses and some nice cars, and he's worth a shitload of money. And yes, I think that Bernie hides a lot of his wealth amongst his kids and other places. I think he's worth more than he lets on. But Bernie Sanders has been honest about his politics enough where can say he's honest, even though he leaves some shit out. So why wouldn't he want to burn down the party? Why wouldn't he want that satisfaction? He's a narcissist. He's a lunatic. We all know that. He would want that stamped on his grave, ushered in socialism, ushered in communism, because that's what he's been fighting for his entire life. So yeah, I think that because of what happened in his presidential run, because he got fucked and he saw that the Democrats, he exposed the Democrats for who they really were. We saw that again last election. We saw what they'll do to pick and choose the winners and losers in their party. Look, watching what happened to Bernie was absolutely incredible that they did that so openly, right? It was just mind-boggling. But it also made it, when they did it with Kamala this last time around, you were like, oh, yeah, no, it's just that again. It becomes the norm. You keep doing something and it becomes norm. And I think that's what they're getting towards. That's what Bernie wants, is for the tear down of the Democratic Party to become norm, because he saw them absolutely fucking rail him in that election. I don't think he cares anymore. And you'll notice the only people who are really rallying around him are the lunatics in the party. I mean, plain and simple, right? It's the lunatic wing, as Senator John Kennedy likes to call them, of that party, is the one who's last year, even if Bernie and AOC started making videos again, you'd have been like, what the fuck is this? But then you saw AOC say enough things socialist publicly, and then all of a sudden they're in a video together and everyone's like, yeah, that makes sense. They normalized it. They normalized, quote unquote, a lot of things, because that's what Bernie wants. I think Bernie is 100% the puppeteer in the Progressive Party. He is the leader. He is absolutely in charge. And I do think he wants to burn it the fuck down. Let's see. What do I got? 8 minutes left. This is an interesting story. Actually, BZ shared this with me. California, Gavin Newsom's paradise. Politico, BZ shared this earlier too in our chat. Politico is essentially talking about how Gavin Newsom is got to be your guy if you're a Democrat going into the next general election, which is just funny, because one of the things that I don't think the insulated in media, and certainly Gavin Newsom's bubble here up the road from me, understands is Democrats in other states hate California. California is a useful tool to them, because as I've said, good night, Mike. As I've said, California is the liberal petri dish, right? Whatever gross, disgusting bacteria of political ideas and rules get grown here into a gross, mutated fungus that then gets sent out through the rest of the country. So I think Democrats across the country appreciate California for that, because they get what they want without having to actually deal with the bullshit that happens in California. It happens years later. The bullshit eventually shows up because the policies are so shit, but they let California be that sacrificial lamb to deal with it first and take the political abuse for it. I don't think Newsom is as popular when people walk into to pull the handle on the Democrat side. I don't think he's the most popular one. I really just don't. I think it's going to be, I honestly think it's going to be somebody who They're going to have to pull somebody off the bench who everyone's going to go, really? That guy? Because they don't have a front runner. Gavin Newsom's only popular right now because he's being so vocal in his fight against Trump. But once you start breaking him down on policy, which the Democrats will do, they'll start attacking each other with ads, and it's going to be amazing. We'll just sit back and chew popcorn. It's going to remind everybody what a douchebag he is. And they'll bring up stories like this. California fiscal year 26-27 is predicting an $18 billion with a B dollar shortfall. It's $5 billion worse than was expected when they were, well, they say that. They have all the numbers. They know how bad it was really going to be. They just didn't come out with it. But it's going to be $5 billion worse than what they said it was going to be. Programs are costing $6 billion more next year, all the different ones. Federal healthcare spending changes. It's going to cost them an additional $1.3 billion. The state currently has $14 billion in reserves. Without structural fixes, there's a potential $35 billion shortfall in future years. Now, mind you, you still have businesses and high-income earners leaving the state. That's still a thing. The deficit guarantees pressure for major cuts. There will have to be major cuts to education, public safety, welfare. You say it, it's going. There's going to be borrowing, accounting tricks, as we all know. Look, accounting tricks is how American taxpayer dollars are paying for illegal immigrants' health care in states like California. That's just the way it is. And it's going to put pressure on Newsom because I'll tell you right now, yeah, you'll probably see AOC. I don't think she'll run for president. I don't think she'll be the nominee. I think she'll be the number 2. That's just my guess. I don't think people trust her enough to be. I think they're going to look at her like they look at Kamala. Look, a lot of Democrats didn't want Kamala. They just didn't have the right to fucking choose it. She was forced down their throat. But you remember the primary before that, which she accused Joe Biden of being a racist. She got less than 1% in Iowa. So, I don't think AOC, just because people get the most attention on social media, I do not think that means that even the few sane left Democratic voters are going to choose them to lead the country because they just know she's a moron. I mean, she's a talking head with tits in a bar. I mean, that's really what she's proven herself to be. She's not a smart person. She really is not. She is entirely point proven that just because you have a piece of paper from a university, it does not mean you're intelligent. That's AOC. But again, all of her fame, if you will, is because of her emotional appeal to people. She's all emotion. She's zero substance, all emotion. Back to California. Sorry, got off topic yet again. This is going to hurt Gavin long term because if it's 18 billion, or what did I say? Was it 18 billion? Yeah, 18 billion, 26-27. He's still on the hook for that. And he's still going to be on the hook for 27-28 because that budget will be made while he is still in office. And if that's $30 billion, $40 billion, yeah, I'll tell you right now, that's going to absolutely kill him going into the primaries. I don't think it's going to sustain. Let's finish up with the chats before we close out the show. Jersey BZ said that he expects her AOC in the race in 2028. Jersey Joe says, I don't think Democrats know who is a leader and who's their candidate. Jersey Joe, I have to agree with that statement wholeheartedly, sir. I don't think they have a freaking clue. Cosmic Bard said AOC is definitely number 2. Or BZ says AOC is VP, which is one heart attack away from the presidency. Yeah, but Kamala was there. They were totally fine with that because it gets them votes. It has nothing to do with their ability. It has to do with the votes that they can get them. That's all the VP spot for the Democrats is right now. Yeah, she wins with the tiny percentage in her voting district. She does not run away with it as much as people. The problem is much like Curtis Sliwa, you're in New York. You're a Democrat. You already have like an 85% chance of winning. It doesn't matter who steps in, right? You can have all the best policies in the world, but it's just a humongous blue liberal city. Let's see. Cosmic Bard, feeling seen here, Sean. just because you have a piece of paper. It's true, though. It's true. I don't think it'll translate nationally. And look, I think they're going to have to in 28, they're going to have to find somebody who's just not offensive, semi-intelligent. They're going to have to find the next Barack Obama. I'll be completely honest with you. And not race-based, but just that smarmy approach where he seems like he's a nice enough guy that your grandmother will vote for him. He seems all of these things. They're going to need that quiet politician. They're going to need that somebody who's kind of at ease and relaxed, because they saw Kamala and they saw Tim Walz and they saw what a shit show that was. Both of them just herky-jerky, saying all this bizarre shit, rambling at the mouth to no end. And they knew the more they talked, the more friggin' stupid they sound. And they're not going to make that mistake again. I don't think so. I still don't think that it's going to bode well for them, but I certainly don't think that it's going to be somebody like AOC or any of those people. So we will see. Time will tell. That's it for me right here on the SHR Media Network. You can find me every Monday and Wednesday, but not next week. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hey, promotional time. Check out shrmedia.com. We get new articles up every day, some breaking news stuff, some op-ed stuff from all the hosts here at SHR Media, BZ, Mission Ready Men, Jersey Joe, and myself. So make sure you check that up every Monday and Friday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 on the East Coast. I am sick. You have Jersey Joe with the Reaver of Common Sense when he can be on air. Tuesday, Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast. You have BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon right here on the SHR Media Network when he can be on air every Tuesday and Thursday during the day, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon on the East Coast. You have Mission Ready Men with my friend Big E. And of course, on Sunday night, don't forget, you have the Cosmic Bard right here at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 on the East Coast on the SHR Media YouTube. Please like and subscribe wherever you're watching from. We would greatly appreciate it. And if you, by the way, I started throwing my recipes up and this is going to cost a minute, so just hang out. I had a few people, both on social media and outside social media, who say, you love to cook, you have some good recipes, why don't you start posting them? So I actually started posting them on SHR Media. It's going to be a completely different, it's on SHR Media's page, but it won't hit the front page. I'll do it via link only, yada, yada, yada. Make sure you get a chance and check it out. And like and share. The first one I put up last night was white guy pho, which is entirely different than Japanese pho in the sense that it doesn't, just go read the article. If you just go read the article, it's there on SHR Media. You can search pho. You can search fat white guy. Either way, it's going to pop up, but give it a chance, please. That's going to be it for me. I hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I will not talk to you between now and then. You can find me on Twitter at the number 2 against tyranny if you want to get at me there. But if not, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and I'll see you on the other side of the holiday. Good night.